Levi Coffin, a savior of slaves. The Bible, in bidding us to feed the hungry and clothe the naked, said nothing about color, and I should try to follow out the teachings of that good book. Levi Coffin was a Quaker and an abolitionist in the early 1800s when slavery was prevalent in the southern states. Mr. Coffin, a white man, took a stand against slavery as a critical figure in the Underground Railroad. The Underground Railroad was a series of secret safe houses to help runaway slaves reach the north. Coffin helped fugitives escape bondage, and he and his family took care of slaves that hid in their home. His home, in Newport, Indiana, was considered the Grand Central Station of the Underground Railroad. In the short term, he successfully assisted over 3,000 slaves in regaining their liberty. In the long term, he changed the course of their descendants' lives as well. After the Civil War, Levi Coffin continued to work in the community to improve the lives of many freed slaves.
Historical context.
In the Deep South, in states like Georgia, Alabama, and the North and South Carolinas, slavery was a big issue. African Americans were enslaved by wealthy white men. Slaves who tried to escape came through the Underground Railroad. The Underground Railroad existed from 1804 through the Civil War, which spanned from 1861 to 1865. This organization helped many slaves reach northern states such as New York, Massachusetts, and Pennsylvania. Many of them even went as far north as Canada. These fugitives, traveling within the Underground Railroad, sought assistance in caring, generous, and incredibly brave people who hid them in their homes and helped sneak them around at night.
The Underground Railroad is a group of men and women, liberty-loving men and women who have devoted their lives to ending slavery.
People involved with the Underground Railroad were from many backgrounds, including Quakers. Levi Coffin was a Quaker. Quakers are a group of people with religious and ethical beliefs that lent well to an interest in abolition. They felt that everyone should have equal rights and freedom.
Taking a stand in history. Early life.
Levi Coffin was born on a farm in New Garden, North Carolina, on October 28, 1798. When Levi was a child, he grew up witnessing slavery firsthand. He had many interactions with slaves, and his parents did not believe in slavery. In order to help slaves when he was young, he and his cousin, Vestal Coffin, opened a Sunday school for African American students. They established this school in 1818 and taught slaves how to read and write. Coffin's Sunday school was unfortunately shut down rather quickly because slave masters realized that it would impact their workforce. Years later, in 1826, Levi married a childhood friend, Catherine White, and together they moved to Newport, Indiana to raise their children in a free state.
He says in his autobiography, "I could no longer live in the state that supported slavery. I'm specifically choosing Indiana because it was a state that was free, so we had no legal practice of slavery in our state."
Actions in the Underground Railroad.
Soon after moving, the Coffins dedicated their life to helping enslaved men and women find freedom. Their house was an intersection between three passages: Madison, Cincinnati, and Indiana. It was considered the Grand Central Station of the Underground Railroad. The contributors helped sneak slaves around, usually at night. Levi also allowed slaves to take refuge in his house. This ensured their health, safety, and comfort. He called a doctor if someone was hurt or sick, and had hiding places when there were signs of danger. His wife, Catherine, helped by forming a sewing group to make clothes for fugitives who often escaped with only the shirts on their backs. Slaves came almost every week, and the coffins used secret codes to get them to the next checkpoint safely. Most of the fugitives that coffins helped make it to freedom.
Actions later in life.
Southern society was based on the need of slave labor to support their agrarian economy. This made it hard for many to want to contemplate the immorality of slavery. Levi Coffin was one of the few people who boycotted products of slave labor. He even researched companies that didn't use slave labor, and he helped start a cotton factory that only employed people who were paid for their labor. Then came the Civil War.
His impact for African Americans and free blacks actually was happening through the Civil War itself, not just through the Underground Railroad. During the Civil War, Levi also helped to sort of lobby the federal government in Washington, D.C., so he's meeting with people that worked with Abraham Lincoln.
Abolishing slavery by constitutional provision settles the fate for all coming time, not only of the millions now in bondage, but of unborn millions to come.
The Coffins continued to work to improve the lives of African American people during and after the war. They helped tend to injured soldiers from the North. After the war ended, Levi Coffin also helped fund many societies that supported the quality of life for African Americans. He helped start a black orphanage and many other associations to help pass slaves. One of these associations is the English Freedmen's Aid Society.
Impacts.
Levi Coffin had a great impact on the people he associated with. Slaves became more educated, hopeful, and positive after interacting with him. He made many African Americans feel equal to whites. Coffin also gave fugitives a better chance at freedom by helping them get to the next safe house.
Race to freedom. In order to connect with the Underground Railroad, you will need to search out safe houses along the way. These houses will be marked by a candle burning in the window. Also, while introducing yourselves, always do so with the phrase, friend of a friend. Friend of a friend. Friend for friend. Yeah.
Over 3,000 slaves escaped bondage, increasing the quality of their lives and the possibility of establishing a well-supported progeny. Some of Coffin's speeches also inspired countries and people all over the world who went on to follow Levi's example to combat today's slavery.
Conclusion.
Levi Coffin was a crucial piece of the Underground Railroad, as well as being partially responsible for freeing thousands of slaves. He enriched countless lives after the Civil War. He impacted the rights of African Americans and slaves today. His public and private dialogues spurred many communities to view slavery differently. In the end, Levi Coffin had many direct and indirect influences on today's society. He was a noble man who helped diminish slavery and was a passionate role model who possessed the courage to fight for what he believed.
As a person, he would be someone who could pretty much get along with anyone. And you kind of get that just by the way he even talks to people in the South about slavery. He's very open-minded.
Coffin was an exceptional leader who not only lived by his beliefs, but encouraged others to treat people of color equally. Levi Coffin took a stand against something that, until then, felt insurmountable. Today, we see that Levi had the fortitude to stand against the institution of slavery in the United States. It was an early example of engaging in an unselfish, ethically charged effort. His actions were an important part of a larger movement which still continues to fight prejudice and inequality today.